Hello again, everyone, and thank you for joining the May installment of Dragon Trail Interactive's monthly webinar series. My name is Sina Cook, and today I'll be presenting an essential introduction to digital platforms in China that relate to tourism and tourism marketing. This webinar is aimed at those who are either totally new to learning about the Chinese digital world and those with some basic knowledge that you'd like to refresh or expand on. I'll be covering a lot of ground in a fairly limited amount of time to give you a taster of all of the must-know platforms. But if you do want more detailed, specific information on anything, Dragon Trail has an extensive resource library of past webinars, articles, and how-to guides that go into much more depth on a number of today's topics. We're also planning for today's webinar to be the first in a two-part series with a June installment that will look more closely on how digital marketing has been used for the tourism market and tourism industry during the COVID-19 crisis, and how the crisis is changing digital marketing for tourism, especially in China. For today, we'll first look at an overview of how Chinese travelers use digital tools and what sets them apart from other markets. Next, we'll look at the role of OTAs, online travel agencies, in China's travel market, and the most important ones to know. Then we'll go through China's top social media platforms and specifically how they're used in the context of tourism. We'll also look at in-destination digital tools that are used by Chinese travelers on the road. And then the webinar will finish with a Q&A session. You can ask questions at any point during the webinar by using the Q&A button, which you should see on your Zoom control panel. Please do use the Q&A button instead of asking questions in the chat, as using the Q&A button makes it much easier for me to see all of the questions and make sure that I answer them at the end of the session. We will also be sending a follow-up email to all attendees tomorrow that has a copy of the presentation slides, as well as a link to a recording of the webinar. So you'll have that for reference and are also welcome to share that with colleagues. For those of you who are attending a Dragon Trail webinar for the first time and may not have heard from me before, my name is Sina Cook, and I'm Dragon Trail's Associate Director of Communications based in our London office. My work focuses on Dragon Trail's educational resources, including webinars like this one, articles and reports that you'll find published on our website, our monthly newsletter, and daily updates on our social media channels, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. I'm the co-author of the 2019 edition of the book, China, the Future of Travel, which is an essential handbook for anyone working with Chinese tourism, and it's available for free as an ebook upon request if you go to chinafutureoftravel.com. Dragon Trail Interactive has been around for 11 years now, and it's the first company to focus on digital marketing and solutions for the Chinese tourism market and travel industry. We help clients around the world to connect to Chinese consumers and to the Chinese travel trade through social media, online campaigns, and other digital initiatives. The company is based in China with headquarters in Beijing and offices in Shanghai and Xi'an, as well as international offices in the US and the UK. We work with around 80 clients on 6 continents, and this includes destinations, hotels, airlines, cruise lines, attractions, and car rental companies. You can find out more about our services and case studies of our work on our website, and I'll also be using a number of examples to illustrate today's webinar. So let's start getting to know China's travelers and how they use digital tools in relation to travel. For those of you who are very new to this topic, it's important to start off by making sure that you realize that the digital platforms that are relevant to most world tourism markets are not used by the vast majority of Chinese tourists. Internet restrictions and market differences in China have led to the development of a different digital landscape. So Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are all blocked, and they're accessible in China only by using a VPN, which most Chinese people do not have. As we'll see later, Expedia doesn't rate at all in the most commonly used OTAs in China, nor do most overseas OTAs actually. So you need to learn about an entirely different set of apps and websites, and that's what I'll be introducing today. In part because Chinese people were less likely to have their own computers in the early days of the internet, and so they jumped straight to smartphones, China's online population is very active on mobile. It's about 99.3% mobile, according to the latest statistics. China's population also tends to use mobile devices more than the global average when it comes to travel. So this means that mobile-friendly websites and booking platforms are a must. Apps, WeChat accounts, and WeChat Mini-Programs can sometimes be even more important than websites. And in terms of communication and doing business, messaging via a platform like WeChat is preferred to email. As we can see from some of the statistics here from late last year, around 3/4 of Chinese travelers will use mobile platforms for all of their travel planning. More than 82% book trips via mobile, which is much higher than the global average of around 54%. And around 84% of Chinese travelers use mobile devices to search for travel information, compared to a global average of only 61.6%. The image that you can see here is a screenshot from our China Outbound Travel Pulse video series, which is something that we have created together with Ctrip, the China Outbound Tourism Research Institute. These videos are around 5 minutes long each, and they include interviews with Chinese travelers, as well as analysis on more than 25 different topics on Chinese outbound tourism. You can find all of those videos in the videos and presentations section of Dragon Trail's website. So in the video here, the topic was digital tools for travelers, and the scene that you can see here is an interview with a Chinese traveler at the Beijing airport, where she's showing us all of the apps that she's downloaded for her upcoming trip. This visualization of the digital journey of a Chinese traveler, it certainly doesn't include every single app and platform that a Chinese consumer could possibly use. So just to give you an idea, there are about 200 Chinese live streaming platforms alone. But it does include the key platforms that will also be covered in this webinar. So these are really the essential ones to know. Perhaps important to point out here too is that while you'll see there's a lot of overlap with different icons for apps and websites showing up in multiple stages along the journey, there is just one app that's absolutely present at every stage, from inspiration to the trip itself, and that's the green WeChat logo. But before we get to WeChat, I'd like to first introduce China's most important online travel agencies and travel websites. Online booking in China is prevalent both for independent travelers and group tours, and there were 146 million Chinese OTA users as of last June. Even around 3/4 of group travelers in China use online booking, and this includes websites and apps of traditional travel agencies as well as OTAs. FITs, fully independent travelers, as you might expect, also lean heavily to online booking. In terms of the leading OTAs in China, we will cover everything on this top 10 list for mobile app penetration that you can see. But I wanted to point out that of the 10 listed here, TripAdvisor is the only one that is also a Western travel brand. Booking.com is an OTA that's been mentioned multiple times in our interviews with Chinese travelers before, so this is relevant as well. And Chinese who have studied or worked abroad might be more likely to use Western sites. But overall, Chinese OTAs are really dominant for the Chinese market. The most important OTA by far is Ctrip, which changed its name last year to the Trip.com group. This is the same company that owns Skyscanner, and it's the world's second largest OTA. It's used by more than half of Chinese travelers to plan and book their trips, and it's especially prevalent in outbound travel. Ctrip sells everything from flights to visa services to overseas wedding photography packages. And they've really gotten into the growing customized and personalized travel market in recent years too. They also offer some in-destination tools. So for instance, Ctrip's virtual tour manager app links travelers to an online tour operator to provide support during their trip. And Ctrip's SOS service is used for emergencies while travelers are on the road. So this ranges from medical translation or help with lost property all the way through to emergency evacuation flights. Overseas travel brands can and do work together with Ctrip on advertising, though as you might imagine, this is quite expensive given the company's significant market share and high exposure. So if you are looking to work with Ctrip on advertising, pricing starts at around $45,000 US, and they don't have a set price list either. They'll give kind of bespoke packages to any potential client to see what they're looking for specifically. So here are the other leading OTAs in China, and I'll go through them one by one. Qunar is ranked number 2, and it used to be Ctrip's biggest competitor, but now it's partly owned by Ctrip, and it focuses slightly more on domestic and discount travel. Flicky in 3rd place is a travel marketplace, and it's a bit more similar to e-commerce as a model than to an OTA. Flicky is owned by the Alibaba Group, which owns e-commerce site Taobao, as well as the leading mobile payment platform in China, Alipay. Tongcheng Yilong used to be 2 different OTAs, but they were merged together, and these are owned by WeChat's parent company, Tencent. So you can access them when you use WeChat to look for hotels or book rail or air tickets through the WeChat Pay section of WeChat. In the past, we always talked about China's 3 internet giants. So these are the 3 biggest internet companies in China, and they are Alibaba, Tencent, which owns WeChat, and Baidu, which is kind of China's Google, and Baidu is the leading search engine in China. But this kind of model of the 3 internet giants has been disrupted in recent years with the decline of Baidu and the rise of newcomers such as Meituan Dianping and ByteDance. Meituan Dianping has investment from Tencent, and it covers a number of services. So this includes food delivery and cinema tickets. But Meituan Travel has also become the leading platform for domestic hotel booking in China, and it's especially popular with younger generations. They haven't quite expanded into the international market too deeply yet, but we would expect to see some development in that area in the future. Tunio is an OTA that has been around for a long time and has investment from both Ctrip and Tencent. And then Lu Mama is another long-standing OTA in China. TripAdvisor's Chinese website is tripadvisor.cn, and it goes by the name of Mao Tuing, or Owl Travel in Chinese. In addition to OTAs, China also has 2 very important websites that offer travel booking, but they're more social in nature than an OTA is, and they're strongly focused on FIT. These websites are Chongyo, QYER.com, and Mafanwo. Chongyo was founded back in 2004 by Chinese students and backpackers in Germany. And it served at that time as a platform where you could find travel companions and share tips and travel experiences. Now the website has 88 million users with a young demographic and a number of features, including reviews, travel diaries, a Q&A forum, professionally written, free-to-download guidebooks, and more. Chongyo users can book plane tickets and travel packages as well as accommodation. And the accommodation booking on Chongyo is offered through a partnership with Booking.com. Chongyeo has staff writers, and it's possible to work with them on influencer marketing and even to commission special Q Guide guidebooks just for travel brands. So for instance, there is a Q Guide book specifically for the Royal Caribbean Cruise Company. Ma Fangwo offers very similar services and features as Chongyeo does, and it appeals to a similar demographic. You'll also find city and destination pages, listings, user reviews, and travel diaries. Ma Fangwo does not publish guidebooks, but they have been getting more into video marketing lately, and they have just launched a live streaming channel. You can also book hotels, flights, train tickets, tour packages, and rental cars through Ma Fangwo, and the platform offers various advertising options and sponsored content opportunities. Okay, so let's move on now to Chinese social media, especially how it's used in the context of travel. Survey after survey about the Chinese market shows us that the vast majority of Chinese outbound travelers share their experiences online. While this is done on multiple channels, WeChat is the most common by far. This survey that you can see here on outbound travel from 2018 showed that 71% of Chinese outbound tourists shared their travel experiences on WeChat, followed by Weibo at 44%, and then QQ. We won't go into detail on QQ, but just to explain briefly what it is, since you see it ranked so high here. QQ is an instant messaging platform that came before WeChat and also comes from Tencent, which is the same company that launched WeChat. So QQ is much older, but it's been re-embraced by younger generations in recent years. And in my own experience in China, QQ is really used just for chatting with friends as well as for transferring large files and not for tourism marketing. So here's a different survey that focused on independent Chinese travelers. And you can see again that a number of online platforms are often used by travelers to share their experiences online, but WeChat is again in the lead. This recently released study found that while Chinese travelers generally shared their travel experiences online for positive reasons, like self-expression, sharing special places and beautiful views, and reporting memories, more than a quarter of respondents said that they went online to complain about travel experiences that they were disappointed with. So it's important to know that these online platforms can also be a source of negative feedback. And this makes it especially important to keep track of what Chinese visitors are saying on travel websites and social media through reputation monitoring. And this is one of the professional services that Dragon Trail can provide. We will get started on our tour of Chinese social media with WeChat. I've already mentioned it numerous times, and I imagine that most of you will have already heard about it if you don't already even have a WeChat account. According to Tencent's recently released Q1 2020 report, they are now up to 1.2 billion users, which makes WeChat by far China's leading mobile app and social media platform. It started as a simple chat platform back in 2011, but it's since expanded to cover so many functions that it's nicknamed the Swiss Army knife app. These functions include payments, media, customer service, and much more, as we'll see in the slides to come. Apart from all the business and marketing related things that you can do with WeChat, I think it's important to remember that WeChat is still at its heart a social app, and users share photos, text, and videos with their friend circle regularly using WeChat Moments, the app's social feed, and through text and voice message, video calls, and media sent directly in personal or group chats. So now I'd like to go through the many ways that WeChat relates to tourism and tourism marketing by going on kind of a customer journey illustrated with examples that all relate to one of Dragon Trail's clients, Prom Peru, the Peruvian National Tourism Board. Like many tourism boards, Prom Peru has an official account on WeChat. And through the official account, they regularly publish article content that is then pushed out to their subscribers and visible to anyone who searches for the account or who receives the content shared by a friend. You can see what PromPeru's official account kind of homepage area looks like in the screenshot on the left. And you can see there a few of the articles that are published through the account. So Peru's articles include photos, videos, and written content, and these highlight different themes such as gastronomic or cultural tourism. So in one way, this is inspirational content, but it is also useful, and it can be used for trip research and planning. Then if users want to find even more kind of useful or specific information, they can click on the button that says View on that screenshot on the left, and it will take them to the screenshot that you can see on the right. And there they can find a number of menus which can help them to search for content by theme and look for practical information, such as an explanation of Peru's visa waiver program for qualifying Chinese travelers. There is also a live chat function where travelers can ask questions directly during business hours. On a more simple level, the chat function on WeChat can be used by hotels, tour operators, and other tourism businesses to communicate directly with their Chinese clients. So for instance, if you're a tour operator, you can use WeChat to communicate and confirm with a client about the meeting place and time for the tour itinerary the next day. While WeChat is an important B2C tool, it can also be used effectively for B2B marketing or training. Many tourism brands have separate official accounts that are specifically for travel agents and tour operators to follow. And this will have, some of the content will be the same content that's published through the official account for consumers, but then some of the content will be especially tailored to the travel trade. Dragon Trail also offers several WeChat-based platforms that are helpful for training of the Chinese travel trade. One of these is called China Travel Academy, or CTA, which is an online self-study program that's based on WeChat, where Chinese travel agents can, in their own time, get training on destinations or tourism companies. And then CTA Live is a live online webinar that is again given through WeChat to Chinese travel agents. You can see a screenshot on the left here of a CTA live webinar that PromPeru was giving to the Chinese travel trade. That has an interactive Q&A and messaging system, which you can see on that screen there too. Moving on to booking, it is possible to set up booking tools on WeChat or have your WeChat official account linked to a booking page on an external website. But the example that I have here on the right is another way to facilitate sales on WeChat. So increasingly, even agents from traditional offline agencies in China will use WeChat or QQ to correspond with their clients and make bookings instead of doing those face-to-face in an office like they used to. So the example that you can see here is from one of two pop-up stores that PromPeru hosted on WeChat at the end of 2018 and the beginning of 2019. And during these pop-up stores, which lasted 3 hours each, they invited a number of selected Chinese travel agents to kind of host the, come to the pop-up store and meet consumers that also came to the pop-up store because of promotion that was done beforehand. And during those few hours, the consumers could ask questions of the travel agents about selected tour packages to Peru, and they could buy those directly or get connected to the Chinese travel agents for future bookings during that time period. We will see more examples of these later, but WeChat's mini-programs are light apps that are accessed from within WeChat, and they're used by destinations, hotels, and other tourism businesses. especially to provide useful in-destination tools for Chinese travelers. The one here that you can see on the left is Lima's mini program, which helps Chinese tourists to find attractions, shopping, hotels, and restaurants in Lima, Peru. It has an interactive location-based map as well as recommended itineraries, which you can choose based on your own interests that you input into the mini program. Then the last photo on the right here is really a culmination of all of these efforts. It is a Chinese tourist in Peru posting photos and text about her trip to WeChat Moments. This in turn can inspire others in her social circle to learn more about and visit the country themselves. So that very briefly is WeChat. We will move on now to what I think is the other most vital social media platform to understand, which is Sina Weibo. Weibo is a microblogging platform. It was launched in 2009, and it was China's leading social media platform before WeChat took over. Weibo has made a comeback in recent years, partly because of short video content on the platform, and it's especially popular with users born in the 1990s. WeChat is a very private platform where you can only see content from within your own network, though they're currently trying to change this a bit. But Weibo is and has always been a totally open platform. So content here gets way more impressions, and hashtags are often used to create conversations on certain topics, like on Twitter. Unlike Twitter, Weibo, their character limit is it's a 2,000 character limit. So basically you can write as much as you want and you aren't limited to 280 characters like on Twitter. And you can also post up to 9 photos, and you can see an example of that here at the bottom in a tourist post from Ottawa, Canada. Weibo also has more users and a higher market value than Twitter does, as well as a significantly younger demographic. There are many ways that tourism brands can use Weibo for marketing, and we ran a whole webinar just on this topic last year, so I'll just summarize a few of the ways here. Brands can open their own accounts on Weibo to post marketing content, including images, text, hashtags, polls, giveaways, and short videos. Looking out for and rewarding good user-generated content by reposting it is a good way to mix up your marketing and also get and show that you have the endorsement of real Chinese travelers. Weibo is probably the social media platform that Chinese travel influencers like to use the most because of the large exposure that you can get by using Weibo. So it's a good place to do collaboration with key opinion leaders or KOLs. If you have enough budget, you can also team up with Weibo's parent company, Sina, to create professional content, which is featured on the Sina travel channel and their Weibo platform. So next up in terms of social media in China are video platforms, and this includes short video and live streaming, which are both relevant to tourism marketing and sales. There are really too many to mention all of them, but the leading short video platforms right now are Kuaishou and Douyin. Douyin is the original Chinese version of TikTok. Getting an official account on Douyin from overseas is actually really hard to do, and there's also so much content on the platform already that it can be hard to stand out, especially if you are a new account. However, this platform is really popular with users, and it's an option to think about for KOL collaboration more than for opening your own account and starting to put out content that way. In general, rather than advise that you get on any particular short video platform, it's more important to first start making or sourcing short video content, and then share this on your existing platforms, such as WeChat and Weibo. If you're doing influencer marketing, you can also easily find Chinese travel influencers who specialize in video content, and then they can help you to create and promote this kind of content. So here are some examples of short videos in the context of tourism in China. On the left, you'll see a Douyin video of Scotland. It was made by a Douyin user, and to my knowledge, it doesn't have anything to do with Visit Scotland or anything official. It was just made by a user. It got more than 25,000 likes. Douyin does not publicly display the number of impressions, but we can imagine that the number of impressions would be far higher than that. Then in the middle, you can see a post from London's V&A Museum on WeChat. And this included short subtitled videos featuring the director of the museum. It got more than 5,000 views, which might not sound like a lot when you compare it to the views and likes of the other videos that you can see on the screen here. However, the average views per post for museums on WeChat is only around 1,000. So actually having short videos does make an impact. I should mention that one of the reasons that you get such higher impressions on platforms outside of WeChat is that on WeChat, for an article to be read, somebody has to see the headline and be interested in it and click on it and click into the article and read it to get that impression. Whereas on Weibo and other kinds of platforms, you get an impression just because someone has scrolled by the content. So it's much more of active readership on WeChat. And so in some ways, although the numbers on WeChat are much lower, they can be more meaningful. So on the right, you can see a Weibo post by a KOL about his trip to Las Vegas. It was done as a collaboration with the Las Vegas Tourism and Convention Board, which invited a number of Chinese influencers to visit and create content for social media. And this video got nearly 500,000 views. There are a couple more of aspirational and lifestyle-focused platforms on Chinese social media that I'd like to talk about. And in some ways, these are an answer to Instagram, though they have their own characteristics. The first one is Xiaohongshu, or Little Red Book. This started as more of a shopping-focused platform, but there's a lot of travel-related content on it now. It's mostly popular with affluent young women in China's major cities. And I think it gives a very good picture of what this important demographic thinks of as the perfect travel experience. So it's really helpful to look at for market research and trend watching. Xiaohongshu is another platform where it's really hard to get and stand out with an official account, especially from overseas. But it is an appropriate platform to use for influencer marketing, as well as I mentioned before, kind of trend watching and market research. Launched last year, Oasis is like Weibo's version of Instagram, and it's integrated into Weibo. So you can actually get an account on Oasis quite easily. And if you get an account on Oasis and you have an account on Weibo, then you can easily sync those up too, so that when you post any content on Oasis, it will immediately also get posted onto your Weibo account. Oasis is fairly new, so it's not quite as crowded as other social media platforms in China, so now could be a good time to join. The left-hand and the middle photo that you can see here are both from Chinese travel influencers, including one who lives in New York City in the middle. And the image on the right is by Small Luxury Hotels of the World, which is one international travel brand that established an Oasis account very early. There are also a couple of online forums to know of where travelers may research or share their travel experiences. One of them is called Zhihu, and this is quite similar to COTA. On Zhihu, travel brands can establish their own accounts to answer users' questions. Then there's Douban. So Douban is a culture-focused online forum. It's been around for a long time, and it is very popular for things like film, music, and book reviews, but it is used by some KOLs to share their travel experiences. So a lot of the platforms that I've talked about here are used during a trip as well as before it. So for example, a tourist might research a destination by using a website like Chongyou or Mafangwo, but then they'll wait until they're actually in the destination before they use that same website to check local restaurant reviews. So here I wanted to introduce some additional platforms that are most relevant once the Chinese traveler is actually on the road and in the destination. If you remember back to close to the beginning of the presentation when we were talking about how mobile first the Chinese market is, and there was a screenshot from a video of an interview that we had done with a Chinese traveler in the Beijing airport, and she was showing us all of the travel-related apps that she had on her phone. Chinese travelers, even older ones, tend to download more travel-related apps than the world average, and they use their smartphones very often while they're traveling to look up useful information and stay connected to friends and family via social media. I've already talked a bit about WeChat Mini-Programs, and I wanted to share some more examples of how they can be used in a destination. WeChat Mini-Programs work very well for hotels, for introducing the facilities and services, providing online concierge services, area guides, and upselling opportunities. Destinations can also use WeChat Mini-Programs. We've seen the WeChat Mini-Program for Lima before, and here's a similar one for Zurich, which allows users to share venue information with their WeChat contacts and create a personalized itinerary, as well as looking up information about attractions, shopping, hotels, and restaurants in the city. WeChat Mini-Programs can be used by many other kinds of businesses as well, so this includes museums and attractions, airlines, and cruises. Some of the other applications for mini-programs include bookings and check-in services. Mafangwo, Chongyou, and OTAs are all important for user reviews, but there's another app and website that is especially relevant for in-destination listings for restaurants, as well as other kinds of venues, and that is Dazhong Dianping. Dianping is a review platform that focuses on restaurants, as I said, but it also does include attractions and other venues. And it's been very popular in China for a long time, and it's now become quite global in recent years. So you can find hundreds, if not thousands, of cities around the world that are popular with Chinese students or visitors. Both qualitative and quantitative studies have shown that Chinese travelers are more likely to trust and use online reviews than locals' recommendations when it comes to choosing a restaurant. So this app can give you good insights on where Chinese people most likely like to eat and to visit in a location. Dianping is also a top source of information on the most authentic Chinese restaurants in town. So you can use it for your own purposes to find a good, authentic Chinese restaurant that Chinese people like to go to. Or for example, if you have Chinese visitors or hosting Chinese tourists to check, and they're looking for an authentic Chinese restaurant, you can check on Dianping as well to get recommendations from other Chinese people. Mobile payments are something that Chinese people use constantly in urban areas in China, and they've become increasingly relevant outside of China as well. The two mobile payment platforms that you need to know are Alipay and WeChat Pay. Users pay by using these mobile payment platforms by using the app to either scan a QR code at the business or having a retailer or the restaurant or business or whatever scan their QR code that is on the app. Mobile payments have taken off on a global scale, and in addition to the big department stores that were early adopters, you can now use Chinese mobile payments at restaurants and convenience stores all over Asia, in the Moscow subway system, independent shops throughout Europe, airports around the world, and many other locations. There are a lot of advantages to accepting Chinese mobile payments. So for starters, it results in Chinese consumers being more willing and able to spend, as well as to spend more. It also puts them at ease and makes them feel welcome. It lessens the risk of theft, as they won't have to carry lots of cash like Chinese tourists used to do in the past, which made them a target for theft. And mobile payments even provide marketing opportunities. The Alipay app makes local recommendations of venues nearby that accept Alipay, and you can use the Alipay app, if you do accept Alipay, to do geo-targeted or purchase-triggered push messaging. So this has been a crash course in the Chinese digital world that I hope has been informative and useful. Before we move on to the Q&A section, I wanted to let you know about some ways to expand on the basics that we've covered today. With tourism perhaps at the slowest it's ever been in the last century or so, we think that now is a good opportunity to do some training and use the time productively by building knowledge. So we're launching an online training platform called the China Outbound Travel Academy. And by using this, you can do self-study on the Chinese outbound tourism market with multimedia resources and quizzes to test your knowledge. Our first module will be a 2-hour course on digital tools and platforms for Chinese travel sales and marketing. And this will be a great complement to today's webinar. That course is currently in production and will be launching in the early summer, and it will be available for free. We are also planning to build on the information in today's webinar in our June webinar session, which will look specifically at Chinese digital travel sales and marketing in the COVID-19 era. This will include some major changes in digital for travel that we can already see as China's domestic travel industry enters a recovery phase. That webinar will be held on Wednesday, the 17th of June, and you can sign up for it through the event section on the Dragon Trail website or through the link below, which you will receive with the presentation slides that we will send everyone tomorrow. Finally, you can find a lot more detailed information on our website. So this includes articles and recorded webinars on topics such as Weibo for tourism marketing, advertising on Chinese travel platforms and social media, digital tools for hotels, working with KOLs, and detailed information on WeChat, Xiaohongshu, Douyin, and much more. Don't forget also that you can request a free digital copy of the book, China, the Future of Travel, by going to chinafutureoftravel.com and filling out a short form there. Thank you very much to everyone for attending today. I'm now happy to answer any questions that you might have.